Hi, my name is Fred Newman. I'm the owner of the View Camera Store and Fred Newman Photography. Today I'd like to talk about 8x10 cameras, in particular the Canham 8x10, availability of 8x10 film holders, tripods and heads for 8x10 so you can understand using 8x10 better. Just going to show you how to open up the camera first. You'll see the little handle to carry it. There's a little hook that locks the camera down, and there's two locking bars for the rear standard. So let me get those set up. So basically just going to push the camera up and lock. You'll notice right here there's a little tiny notch. Just push it back, locks in place. I'm a little cautious on opening bellows, so the front levers here lock this down. I'm not catching on. Oh, I see, okay. The front levers here catch. These front levers are for the rear focus, so I'm just going to rack it back a little bit because I want to make sure I have plenty of room for opening up the bellows. Now what I want to do is slide this back, because what I'm concerned is right here is to make sure that this bar of the front standard does not touch the bellows. And I actually kind of like to put my fingers over there so I won't scrape the bellows. Bellows are kind of expensive to replace, so you really want to do that. There's also a little notch in the front standard, so I'm just going to lock it down with the bar here. There's another notch on this side. I'm going to lock these two locking bars here, and I'll go into details what they are. Whoops. Okay. Camera's all set. Let me just rack this back so it's kind of neutral. You'll see there's a little lever here. It's a locking lever for the swing. I'm just going to lock that down in the front. And in the back, under here, there's a locking lever for the swing. Lock that down. And I'll lock this one down here. Wait a minute, this one's for the shift, I'm sorry. And this one's for the swing. And I'll go into that later. So we just want to lock these down first, and then we can go over all the details. Now on the Canham cameras, there's three sets of locking levers here. The one in the front is for the rear focus. The one in the back is for sliding the rear standard forward. And the one on the inside in the back is for the front focus. So let's open up the front a little bit. We're just going to put our fingers in here and just flip these in. So if you've got a really long lens, you could rack this out. You've got about 34 inches of bellows, so you've got tons of bellows. So let's just open up and get an idea what it looks like. Let's do this. Whoops, wrong one. Let's do this one. Here we go. So you've got more than enough bellows for just about any lens you want. And you also have a little tab here to lock it on for the bellows in case they droop. You might just put a little piece of, I use a piece of foam core when it's this far out, cut a little square to put under here just in case the bellows droop. So let's put this back together. And I'll do the front first. And I usually square up the front right there so it's perfectly square. And then lock these two down. And then for the rear, just going to move it forward. Okay. Now, for one of the nice things about this camera is for wide-angle lenses, these two on both sides, you could slide the rear standard towards the front. So with a camera like this, you could use extreme wide-angle lenses. I've gone as wide as a 110 Super Simar XL. So when you get real close, you might want to use a wide-angle bellows, but no problem getting real close. And this way, if you want, flip this out. You got a little room to play with focusing here. So you got a little room to play. So this camera is incredible for super wide angle lenses and also for long lenses. Let's lock this back. Okay, let's go through all the movements. The lever here is for your front swing. You'll notice there's two levers, locking bars here. The bottom one is for rise and fall. The top one is for axis tilt. So in other words, you could do separate rise and fall and separate axis tilt. Oh, one thing I forgot. when you slide this forward, you want to lock one first and then lock the other so it's squared. Because if you lock them simultaneously, you could be a little cockeyed and it won't be perpendicular. So you always want to lock one and then the other. And it's the same when you're focusing, like with the rear focus. You know, you got everything set focusing, you could just lock it down with one and then lock down the other later. So it's kind of convenient when you got the loop in one hand and you're moving around. So it's a fairly friendly camera to work that way. So we've got also base tilt in the front. So we actually have all the movements here: swing, rise and fall, axis tilt, base tilt. In the rear, you have base tilt. You have to push it forward to get it off the notch. You've got base tilt in the rear. You also have swing with the top lever. So you have front swing, rear swing, and on the back, the lower lever here is for your shift. So this camera only has rear shift, but you got tremendous amounts of shift. In fact, I don't know if you know, but this camera will convert to an 8x20 or a 7x17. What happens is you replace the bellows and the rear standard, which slides off, so this camera can become a 7x17 or an 8x20 also. Okay, so also one thing I want to mention, which is particular to Canham cameras, is you do have a lock in the front, on the bottom, and the top on the front standard. So when you put a lens board in, this camera takes CNR style lens boards. So when you put a lens board in, you want to make sure you lock the bottom, whoops, and you want to make sure you lock the top. It's different than a number of cameras because some cameras have a little notch. So if you're switching to this kind of camera, make sure you lock the bottom and the top. Okay, on the back, I always recommend a ground glass protector. I think it's kind of essential, especially when you're traveling. The worst phone call I get is, I'm in the middle of nowhere and I broke my ground glass. So I love these ground glass protectors because they cover both sides and they fit in on both sides. On this camera, you've got, just for the rear ground glass, you've got just a bar on top. So I could take this fits in the notch. So this way you could do a horizontal. And if the sun is coming this way, you just take it off and flip it around the other way. Because you never want, when you pull out the dark slide, the sun coming in on the felt of your film holder, because it probably will fog your film. And also I always recommend squeezing the back when you put a film holder in. Because what happens is, especially with an 8x10, there's a lot of torque there, so you might actually move this just enough to get a little bit of light leak, and then you've ruined your film. And that's not a fun thing to happen. So I think I've covered most of the movements on the camera. There's also interchangeable bellows. You can get a wide angle bellows, and the bar for taking that off is right on top here. And then let's take a quick look here. And the bellows comes right out the back. So let's put the camera back together. Let's lock this down. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let me put the ground glass protector back. Let me just lock this down. And as I said, I really like these ground glass protectors because they kind of save you in difficult situations. So we're all set to go now. So let's just close the camera up. Again, when I'm working with the camera, I like to have, wrong one. I like to have a little extra room so I don't scrape the bellows. Loosen this again. So again, let me take off the lens board. Lock these down. So let's just close this up. We're going to loosen the two knobs here, the two locking bars for the base tilt. Loosen these two up. And again, we're going to want to go all the way up, and then all the way back, and then slide it forward, because the last thing you want to do is start chafing the bellows and have to replace it down the road. And slide this all the way forward. Let's move the back towards the front. And again, it locks up square. You want to loosen this. You want to loosen the two on the back. And then we're just going to loosen this. And then slide this down. And again, the hook catches. And you want to lock the two bars for the rear standard. This way it's totally locked up. I want to talk about a few of the accessories for 8x10. The only film holders that are available right now are the Toyo 8x10 holders, Actually, they're probably the best 8x10 holders made. So they are a little pricey, but they're the best holders you're going to ever find on the market. So this is what I'd recommend getting, is the Toyo 8x10 holders. They're super solid, very well made. And for heads, if you look at the former video that I did on the Reese tripod, the J100 and the J250 head, that's one choice. But another choice I'd recommend is a good tripod like this Giotto's that's good for about 20 pounds, a good carbon fiber tripod, and probably one of the best heads would be the Arca Z1 ball head. This is one of the few heads you probably could, if you could put a little platform here, you probably could put a small child. It's an amazing head. You want to tighten it up really tight, because then you're not going to have, what happens is the torque from the 8x10 will tend to move a little bit like in the front. I didn't have it tightened up enough in the beginning of the video, but this head is probably the best head out there of the ball heads for a real heavy duty camera like this. Other than that, if you look at the other video I did on the Arca Cube, would be another great head for 8x10. And you do need one of the plates, such as an Arca, like an Arca plate from like either Acrotech or someone else, that fits on here. But be very careful when you're attaching it with a plate that it's super solid before you let go of the camera. And one of the nice things about this tripod is you can, once you get it level, you could pan from here, or you could pan from here. So again, like when I set up a tripod, I want to make sure that this is level, so if I go left and right, I don't have to re-level the whole tripod. It kind of breaks your creative flow. I don't like that. So I hope this video helps you understand a little bit about 8x10, how to work the Canham 8x10 camera. This is probably one of the most versatile 8x10s out there. It's got all the movements in the world, and Keith is a great guy who makes the camera. So thank you for watching, and if you have questions, please email me.